So, I saw myself last night. I was out and about, taking a stroll on the cusp of ordinary reality, just traversing the expanse of imminent psychosis, and not too far off from here. In fact, this particular placement might be a little closer, in fact, to here than a lot of you might be willing to consider. But just down the street there, I glanced across the street, and there, in an empty parking lot in the middle of the night, just standing there, still as a statue, blank, aimless stare on their face, was a person who very much appeared to be me. And believe me, this is not something I would say if it really didn't appear to be, in fact, the actual happening case. I dared not approach this whomever. Provided the situation and what I had found myself, I'd have to say it's likely a pretty safe bet for any average onlooker to presume that I was at that point not in the most adequate shape. But things do get weirder. In fact, what I think kind of strikes me as being infinitely more shocking was a time just shortly before then, whereat I saw you. And for the very first time in longer than I think I'm capable of recalling, I recognized a clear and present distinction between us. Now, this particular you to whom I'm referring might not actually be you. Average Joe Smo spotter, frequenter of the Soul Mechanics channel. If you feel as though you are perfectly situated, you have no questions about your identity and or reality, have no pressing feeling as though there's any reason for you to be in any way questioning your accepted sense of self, take a free pass. Perhaps this particular installment is not for you. However, if you are the sort of person who finds themselves at any point putting any measure of serious thought into the consideration, something might not be quite right here, then buckle the fuck in. This one's gonna get bumpy. Okay, hola spotters. Welcome to this installment of the Approaching Nowhere course, or the initial segment of it. I should like to request some measure of forgiveness on your part for my disheveled appearance and, generally speaking, the disheveled state of this entire work, as it were. There are various factors that come into play that just I've been really severely beat up, and everything has gone off into tangential directions, each of which leading down a path that ends in total disaster for the most part. But as it stands, I'm struggling to recover. There are some damages that have been incurred upon me that will likely never recover, most especially as regards in general outlook and understanding. But I'm going to do my best here. We're going to do our best. Sweetie Cheeks is in on this one. We did, in fact, actually film some segments of this already, but We lost some of them were unusable. We ran out of space at one point. There's so many different, as I said, disastrous factors to all of this that ultimately it's going to have to be kind of a shoddy, botched together sort of patchwork of segments that I'm going to try to put together as best I can as regards this particular exploration. Now, this is technically a part of the ongoing investigation for the Deeper Than You Think series in the Reality Checks course. However, I don't want to keep using the title over and over again. I'm not sure that I even like it, and it's just I wanted to do something different, and this does belong in the Approaching Nowhere course as it is attending to this month's exploratory or experimental phase, and what effectively I've recovered from that, which is just, I'm not even sure what to say. Like, I have a lot of things I want to say about it, and I tried to put them down in the video that, the portions that Sweetie Cheeks and I already filmed. I tried to kind of peg down the primary values I want to get at, make a sort of a checklist to work with. I didn't even manage to finish that. I mean, there's just so much here. There's so much that's transpired, so much that's come through, and so much I've become aware of, and for the most part, all of it is particularly disturbing in ways just almost terrifying, really. It's a very sad story we have to tell here. I can say it's kind of disappointing in a manner of speaking, not insofar as regards the actual undertaking. It was actually quite startlingly, it's pretty amazing, actually, everything I got out of this. I mean, this was a big one, and ultimately what I'm going to do here, for various reasons, I'm going to actually go ahead and put the brakes on the entirety of that exploration in and of itself as regards the experimental phase. I know I had said that I was going to try to do that, in regards to my work scenario for the sake of that before, and then I jumped the gun and went ahead and did it anyways. And that's largely because I'm an asshole. We'll come across that value a lot, especially here, but as it stands, there are various factors that, push me towards making the decision that we have to discontinue the experimental phase in and of itself. Just not entirely forever and ever, but indefinitely for sure, for the foreseeable future. But most prominently, it's going to be because I do believe we've managed to cap it off here with the finding in this time set, with what has been uncovered and what's developed over the course of this particular phase. I'm not seeing, on one hand, I'm not really seeing where else to go with it as yet, right now at least, and B, it's just, I'm not going to have enough time to do it whilst I'm working on this. This is the big deal, and it's going to chew up a lot of time to even put it together, let alone get it across, but like I said, I'm going to do my best. We're going to do our best. Sweetie Cheeks is on this one. I am sorry that I'm going to have to kind of go out on my own solo in many occasions, but I'm not sure that she would even want to, be involved in a lot of it, because firstly, this is going to be breaking, breaking some of the unwritten rules we sort of have in play as regards the channel, or at least the initiative overall. Most especially as concerns the very concept of there being such a thing as a villain character or an enemy. But as I was saying, how this relates to the investigation is, in fact, the investigation is looking into what appears to be an actual enemy in play, what we've dubbed the ANE, the algorithm for negative engagement, although it's much more expansive than that titling would allot for you to presume. It's not, obviously it's not a computer program. It is a computer program, it's an algorithm, but the algorithm itself is designed in accordance with an underlying principle, you could say, principle dynamic in play. It's the writing of that routine as regards the computer programming aspect is in fact based on a greater, deeper, more fundamental programming as regards the human psyche. And we're going to explore that here, as I've stated, and what I believe I've kind of almost come very close to nailing down and establishing as being what this actual psychological predicament really is, what the resulting factors are, and indeed what, or where it's coming from, or why even. It's tough. It's going to be expansive. I'm going to have to jump around on this. I'm going to get what I can done as best I can in what I feel to be the best, the most appropriate way. And I'm going to break the entirety of this particular exploration into 3 pieces that are going to regard this programming aspect concerning people, concerning places, and concerning things. And I suppose you might be able to spot, for those of you that have taken any of this seriously, the values implied in that particular structuring, that this is in fact falling back on the theme of what we're seeing as being like a realistic version of the whole haunting idea, the idea of ghosts, of things being haunted, and particularly as regards synchronicity and the voice of the world, or the voice of God, as it were, life speaking to you in values and implications, that indeed, in fact, every little thing that you come across, most especially objects over people even, does in fact tell a story, is speaking to you in some way or another. And we're really trying to package everything in this, but this however many piece installment for the Approaching Nowhere course is going to try and cover the entirety of what we're conceptualizing as being the true, evil, I guess you could say, although I don't want to go that far. Again, that's one of the reasons why Sweetie Cheeks might not want to be involved, because in doing this, I'm kind of going against the grain, going against really the grain that I've laid down. I set the foundation for this myself, and now I'm going to have to try to kind of rewrite my own history here. And honestly, I mean, it works. So we'll see how effective it is for you guys, but as it stands, that's how I need to introduce this. It's going to be pretty patchy. It's going to be troublesome. It might not appear to be so well put together, but I assure you, by the time we finish it, it's going to wrap up just perfectly. That is, in fact, the way that it's designed to work, and I have the utmost faith in that, which we're going to lay down right now as the groundwork of foreshadowing for the entirety of this particular endeavor. It comes down to a matter of faith. Religion did, in fact, in various areas, kind of get it right. It's a damn shame that it seems as though they were intentionally corrupting the entirety of the message they had seemingly intended to deliver. But nonetheless, from the perspective of a spotter, through the eyes of unshielded sight, it is delivered. The message does get across. If you just got eyes that see, it's there in everything. So for now, please bear with me, that this is going to be a fucking good one. That is, if you're comfortable with being very deeply shocked and disturbed on varying levels. But hopefully, throughout the course of that, we're gonna find a way to do this better this time around. So we shall continue from here, beginning with yesterday, our first, the outset of our time-traveling aspect as regards this installment. Okay, so hola spotters, again, this is not a reality check video, nor is it a part of the ongoing investigation, technically. I mean, there are some factors here I am intending to speak to that are directly related to our investigation and may actually serve to kind of, to some extent, actually fulfill our end of the bargain in that regard. At the very least, I'm going to bring up some things that, to me, are startlingly profound as regards that particular avenue of examination. But items of inquiry I should like to bring up now so that we can ensure we have somewhat of a list working and we don't like lose everything, which obviously that's going to be the problem as regards these experimental phases, is that at any given point I can just lose everything that I've found. So I really like to try and put it, mark it down in some way or another. So, A, I want to talk about reincarnation at some point. B, there's a little story I want to tell about, some happenstance in my personal life that I need to kind of figure out how to kind of hide or be somewhat discreet, clandestine in a manner of speaking. 3, I should like to note that if I appear to be in sorry shape or seem to be in any way in somewhat sorry shape, that is because I am in fact in very sorry shape. I managed somehow to go about damn near getting myself killed last night by method of freezing to death, which would have to be the worst way. I mean, cold is my kryptonite. I despise it, and I was really scared. I went out and I went to a couple bars after work, and one bar in particular wherein something happened. That's another story I want to tell. Don't let me forget, people. But I went around, and what I had ultimately intended to do was take a shortcut here. Although what I actually did was I left work initially without my phone or my backpack or just anything I required, including clothing and or keys. And so I had to, first I had to call my roommate to get my supervisor's number, because for whatever reason our cook on this shift did not have a key to the kitchen. Somehow she managed to lock us out, but she couldn't get us back in. Which doesn't, I don't know how that makes sense, but whatever. So she told me to check with the DON, which anybody who's ever worked in a nursing home will be fully aware that the DON is almost never available. I'm not even sure what they're supposed to be doing, actually. And kind of just pretending to have a job, really, most of the time. Anyways, the actual supervisor who is responsible in these areas is going to be my boss here, who runs the kitchen. She can get us back in, obviously. She runs the place. She has a key. However, she has already left. Now, this is very shortly after she left, so I see a window of opportunity to call her and be like, hey, I need you to come back so I can get in and get my shit, because, I kind of require that, lest I'm going to have to wind up sleeping in the fucking parking lot. So, I tried calling my roommate to get her number, and the dude fucking did not answer for 7 fucking calls. When he finally did answer, I asked for her number. First, he tried to argue with me and say that there's no way she's gonna come back. I shouldn't even call her. And I'm saying, seriously, why do you do shit like that, man? It's very simple. Just,
well, why did you leave all your stuff there?
Because I'm a fucking stupid person, and I have been awake without food or fucking. I've really just strung myself out pretty bad this time. It's been a while since I. Well, that's really difficult question, but you would go about suggesting immediately that it's mine, although it's technically not. But that we don't need to get into at this juncture. So, anyways, where was I? I call him 7 times, doesn't answer, then he argues with me. It's like, I have her number on my phone. A, she gave it to me. B, I'm supposed to have it. For what purpose are you attempting to raise an argument with me as to whether I should call her and ask her if she can drop back to open the kitchen? Why would you fucking do that? It's just, I'm sorry, there just somewhat what I see as being kind of disturbing aspects to certain persons, most especially that guy. That's just, he does shit like that all the time. It doesn't.
Which is why don't know why you're surprised.
I'm not surprised. I'm saying I'm not going to say funny. It's a disturbing story. So anyways, finally he says, okay, I'll give you the number, let me check for it, and then he proceeds to hang up on me twice in a row. And I'm freaking out, so I mean, I'm like, dude, give me the fucking number. The third time I call, he gives me the number, I call her, and she's like, she seems upset. It's like she had just gotten home, and I'm expecting her to be like severely upset that I'm trying to call her back. She even said to me, you know, I just got home. I told her I really need this stuff. I'm sorry, but I need your help here. And so she says, well, I just got back here. You're going to have to wait a while. I was like, I will wait as long as you need for me to, madam. Go right ahead and take your time. And I'm expecting her to take forever and ever and to be totally pissed off when she gets there. Now, what actually happens is she shows up in like 3 minutes with her son in tow to introduce me to him because I guess he's a fellow YouTuber. And I mean, her son, obviously, there's, you know, certain honor in that. And I felt honored. Like, she was happy to be there. She told me, she's like, I wouldn't usually do this for people. It's something like that. I don't think she said precisely that, but what she did say is, she said, I want you to know that you matter to me. And she, you know, like, she cares about me. She brought her son to me. Like, I just felt terribly honored by it. It was
That's really sweet.
it was very sweet. It was peculiar and interesting, and I really loved that. So then I went to go into their bathroom to try to change my clothes, but as it happens, I did not have the clothing I required and I thought I had packed in my backpack. So I wound up essentially wearing one layer of like skimpy ass fucking like the tight jeans and not this shirt, but the other white shirt that's just that one layer, and then the kind of windbreaker, supposedly but not actually waterproof jacket. And I mean, but it was nice out all day, you know, like it was really nice. I was actually excited about what the fuck is that? Is this paranormal activity, sweetie?
I don't feel any cold spots or smell sulfur.
I had forgotten the prescient cues to look out for. Which, that's another thing I want to talk about at some point. Another item of inquiry to be working with is the whole idea of supernatural and or paranormal things. Anyways, so yeah, I wound up with like lesser than adequate clothing, though I had, like I said, I was looking forward to going home. I was actually intending to run around a little bit and you know, have some little random side quests because I was just excited about doing that. I wanted to really run with the ball this time, make the most effective use of the span of this particular phase. And then, you know, kind of get out in the world and look around for some of the crazier shit I might run into, which I did indeed find. But amongst the crazy shit I ran into, the most prevalent sort of exposure, you could say, that I was in fact subjected to was the point wherein just out of nowhere, all of a sudden, okay, firstly, I took what I had thought to be what would wind up being a shortcut, which is a route I had never taken before, and wound up being not only a dead end, but a dead end resulting from a gigantic loop in what I actually, you know, took this loop more than twice because I didn't actually know what was happening. Like, I thought I was getting somewhere. I got lost in my own fucking city, just in back roads in the middle of fucking West Cleveland. I got totally lost to the point where I didn't even know which way to go in order to get back on track. At what point, it just suddenly, like, the fucking temperature dropped, and no less than like 20 to 30 degrees immediately, and it started pouring fucking rain. And I was soaked, and I mean, I was stuck trying to find my way back here for what must have been, I mean, let's see, I would have gotten out of work around about 8 o'clock or so, having waited for my supervisor to come back. We got out early because we really we kicked ass. We did a hell of a job yesterday and today. We knocked it out of the fucking park. Anybody from my team who might happen to watch this, you are amazing. You guys are all doing a fantastic job. Not also, but not limited to being just generally, but especially the new people, some of which I've worked on training. You're really kicking ass. One of them is named Excelia.
Whoa.
No, Excellus. How fucking cool is that, though? I was like, dude, that's near and dear to my heart, that one. Excellence is a habit is one of my primary mottos, and I was so enthused to hear that was this girl's name, although she kind of doesn't really speak English so well yet. Anyways, she's doing a hell of a job. Every fucking buddy there, you guys are really doing well, and I'm impressed with you guys, and I'm very happy for that. I just wanted to make note. Keep it up. We really kicked ass yesterday and today, although it's unfortunate that afterwards I would go about essentially like putting the barrel of an as extensional gun in my face, like the proverbial firearm pointed at my head for the most part, because, I mean, as I was saying, I had to have left around 8 o'clock or so. I stopped at a couple places, which might have taken a half hour at best, but I wound up getting back here at 1:50, I think.
It was like 1:30.
Let's say 1:30, rounded off.
You have a GPS device in your pocket this whole time, you know that, right?
Well, okay, firstly, no, I don't. I didn't know that. Honestly, I wouldn't really know how to make use of it.
Google the word map.
And it's going to tell me?
Yes, it will
Really?
immediately pop up. Yes.
Okay, well, I've never done that before, and I'm in just, as I said, I'm in pretty fucking shitty shape, so I mean, it's not something I really would have thought of. All I could think of at the time was, oh my god, I am actually freezing to death right now, like literally freezing to death. And I mean, it was like painful, and I was just losing my shit, which, mind you, I got frostburn all over my damn, frostbite all over my damn hands, so now it's like, it's exceptionally painful to do anything using my fingertips. Anything that requires any degree of pressure applied, it feels like I'm shattering my hand every time. Of course, I was given precisely that task. It requires just that, with a pad of steel wool today, whatever. I'm gonna make an attempt at not rambling too much here. But okay, so I got back here at 1:30. I was totally losing my shit. So I mean, there's very little chance I would have even thought to use a map had I known I could, and even then it was pouring rain, so I couldn't really do anything with the phone. The screen's fucking covered in water. I can't even get my fingers to work. My fingers work anyways, because I'm a Cylon. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, that was a pretty interesting little stretch of time, in that I was pretty certain that I was not going to be making this video today or at all, because I mean, I was like sincerely convinced, holy shit, I am literally fucking dying right now. Like, this is bad. I mean, I'm soaked, I'm freezing, I have nothing to protect myself. It took me forever and ever just to get back here when I did find a route to take, and when I got here, Sweetie Cheeks had already given up on me and was ready to go to bed, and the door was locked. I called her, and I mean, I love you so much, thank you, because you did in fact literally save my fucking life. If she had not decided to answer the phone and open up the door and give me something, give me something like skimpy, what are they called, like sweatpants, but I mean, that was enough. They did the trick. They protected me.
What are they, like swishy?
Yeah, they're like some kind of special waterproofy material. They've got those little nets inside. They're cool. They worked. Nothing wrong with them. Just, they are skimpy, though. I mean, that's what they are by definition.
What does that mean?
They're thin. They're a thin material, very thin material. But they protected the fuck out of me. They saved my ass.
That's a weird word.
They were enough to keep me.
Doesn't skimpy mean like slutty?
No, well, not. I mean, it can. That's how a lot of people would use it. Which essentially was what I was dressed, just skimpy, slutty. I mean, I had ass pants on, and of course, I've shown you my ass in those pants. They're worth wearing, but not in the freezing cold rain, that's for sure.
Oh, okay. Skimp out on. Yeah.
But just to note, guys, please try not to do that. That was a mistake for sure. And ultimately, I'm going to go ahead and wager that, in fact, the reason that had happened as it did, and I've taken this up with the larger, with God. I'm not going to try and, like, dance around the usage of that term. That term belongs to us. It does not belong to religion. Anybody who wants to go about thinking that there's something wrong with making use of that term because Christianity has effectively sabotaged it, well, then you are, in fact, playing into that trap, and I just fuck off. The term God is ours. It belongs to spotters. I'm not going to try and avoid it. I have conversed with God as regards this, and I do believe I'm correct in stating that it is precisely that had transpired because I was ultimately kind of like battling God at the time, like the greater world. I was doing something I was pretty certain I should not have been attempting to do, and the world did not want for me to do it. It was not allowing for it to transpire because it is not a part of the plan or plot afoot, as it were, and ultimately could result in me being damaged irreversibly. So all in all, it was just generally not a good idea, but it's something particularly dangerous, what I'm trying to accomplish there, but I don't, like, I want to. So, I mean, once I kind of invest in making an attempt at doing something, I get very, very, kind of, I'm bothered by leaving things unfinished, and I will not give up, even if God itself were to step in and say directly to me, hey, that's wrong, don't do that. I would respond with a, go fuck yourself, I'm going to do whatever the hell I damn well please, and then proceed to likely get myself killed in the attempt. Because I'm a stupid person. But I mean, the point being that I was fighting against the drift, fighting against synchronicity, and that's why I believe I had been, for all intents and purposes, apparently kind of attacked by the world. And this will happen, where I state that, I wanted to kind of talk about protocol and discuss that. I'm going to go ahead and I'll make a separate clip of my own, because Sweetie Cheeks doesn't have enough time for me to continue rambling about all the things that I do want to address here, but where we state that spotters, most especially operatives of the initiative, operative spotters, will be protected should they, maintain protocol, 3 simple rules. I wanted to state that, on one hand, yes, I can promise you, if you do in fact maintain protocol, follow those 3 simple rules, do not cause harm to people unless it's in defense of yourself or others, do not lie unless it's necessary to, defend yourself or others, and do not cause divisions unless it's necessary to remove dangerous and or fraudulent elements. If you follow those 3 rules, the world will, in fact, synchronicity, as it were, will look out for you and will provide. Even in your darkest hour, things will happen that you will see as being entirely miraculous because, of course, they are. But the same is also true in reverse. If you actually fight against or even deliberately break protocol, there are going to be times where the world will put you in your fucking place, and if you are just, like, really terribly pernicious and the sort of person that refuses to give up on any given something, chances are, as I do so often, you'll continue to fight and continue to get yourself deeper and deeper into what will eventually amount to just a total fucking shitstorm. So, it's not recommended, but I mean, I'm not going to knock anybody for doing the same shit I do. I am not a hypocrite, although I am a fucking asshole, and I will make a lot of mistakes. However, there are 2 factors I need to address as regards that particular concern. Firstly, the reason that synchronicity will get your back for following protocol has absolutely nothing at all to do with the actual rules in play. for anybody that might be thinking, well, of course, if you, essentially as regards a kind of spiritualist lifestyle and metaphysical considerations, if you do the right thing, if you're a good person who does the right thing, a morally viable thing or what have you, then you will be rewarded in some way or another, right? But, I mean, we really need to start working toward getting at the deeper levels here, playing at the greater stages of the game altogether. I can't be continuing to do this on my own. I need you guys to back me the fuck up on this. So, I mean, we're really going to have to start actually comprehending actively the premise upon what we know. Factually speaking, there is in fact no such thing as right or wrong. These rules are not right. There's nothing morally just or sound or, effectively holy or divine about them.
Well, the word that you used earlier to describe when your boss came and rescued you, or your supervisor came and rescued you, and you got to meet her son, and the word that you used twice was honor. It was an honor to be able to meet her son, to be able to, get the things that you needed from her, being of service to you in a kind way, and that's, honorable. I would say that even though right and wrong can be kind of nebulous, that there is still such a thing as being honorable and being honest.
Excellent spot, madam. You did, I'm tearing up now. She's on the ball. Follow her lead. She knows what she's talking about. I know I trained her for the most part, so I mean I should fully expect for her to, but where I've carried off into are places that I haven't really encountered anybody else who's gone quite as far as I have, but she is absolutely correct on that, and it's a fantastic spot, and not only did she get that correct, that consideration, but she actually used the term nebulous. How cool is that? I love it. Fucking excellent.
It was kind of, I guess, nebulous, but I also thought, when you were talking about the way that synchronicity affected your terrible, horrible, awful, bad day.
You went and pulled up a synchronicity.
The Wiccan Read, and I thought I'd read it for you guys. Oh, come back. The Wiccan Read, and this is a short, kind of abbreviated version. It's much longer than this, but bide the Wiccan law ye must in perfect love and perfect trust. 8 words the Wiccan Read fulfill, and harm ye none, do what ye will. What ye send forth comes back to thee, so ever mind the rule of 3. Follow this with mind and heart. Merry ye meet, and merry ye part. It is good. I like that.
Seriously? That's something you knew that? That's like, that's their protocol?
Yeah.
The Wiccans. Wow, dude, Wiccans are initiative peoples. I did not know that.
It's much longer than that. It gets very specific when you dive into the really long, old one, but an abbreviated kind of form of that is basically harm ye none and watch out for the law of 3.
Okay, well, essentially
I like
that
always liked that.
It's perfect. I did not know that. That fits precisely, and in fact, it is a synchronicity in and of itself, which I will get to in just a moment, although I need to pause us here for a minute. Fuck, I think we... And I have said, okay, so, several more times than I should have been allowed to, but I'm going to go ahead and say it again. Okay, so, what I want to do is kind of, for the most part, put a few tags into play here that we can draw upon later, as I said, just to kind of, establish a certain criteria for what we want to discuss here so I don't lose it. We have had a conversation amongst ourselves as regards a certain happenstance that I think is profoundly implicative in this regard, will in fact allow for us to elucidate some of the more primary values in play.
I like the word elucidate. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, actually.
That's a great word.
very, another favorite word is meticulous. Elucidated a very meticulous word. Okay, so. So, alright, we'll go ahead and we'll say, just for the purpose of keeping it in play, a short story regarding an instance that occurred at work with a potential kind of zombie, maybe mimic, I'm not going to say sociopath, but something that,
It's the autopilot.
It's autopilot.
Yeah.
Autopilot kind of, you could say it's refeed, couldn't you?
What do you mean?
It's refeed. It's a repeat, what's the word? Response? Reaction.
Yeah, okay. A reaction.
Yeah, it is the feed being refed without any actual consideration, regarding what is being put into the feed. It's just the same thing playing over and over again, because values are going to be like, people get addicted to chemical substances, people get addicted to all kinds of shit, people get addicted to circumstances, but overall, ultimately, as regards the very...
But you could boil that down to just being brain chemicals.
You could boil it further to being just values. It is the value of any given thing that becomes the addictive property. And that is something we'll have to bring to bear in the toolbox course for the alchemy series at some point. That's another thing I want to keep reminding myself about. I can actually get around to making it happen, but the refeed aspect I'm going to go ahead and keep that term in play. I like that. I mean, it's actually perfect, and in fact is another little synchronicity in and of itself, which, by the way, the Wiccan thing, synchronicity, that's a big deal, because not only has Sweetie Cheese gone ahead and presented this, Wiccan consideration that effectively amounts to kind of not far off from being precisely the same thing as our very own, protocol and or essentially our design. But the reason, I'm going to try to explain this here, I might not get everything across, but the basics of it really is that the reason that the world and or synchronicity or God or whatever you want to think of it as being is going to get your back if you maintain this protocol is not because it's the right thing to do, or even because it is actually, of benefit to anyone, because, I mean, in many cases it is in fact not. That one thing I really want to get across is that it's very rare and unique circumstance in what you come across a person who in fact has the first fucking clue as to what is actually beneficial, most especially in the long term.
Well, a lot of times I wouldn't put too much blame on people for that. I think it's really hard to consider the potential ramifications of every single decision, and obviously, there just wouldn't be enough time in the day to kind of consider everything.
Right. That's just for future reference. That's going to be the reason really why you gotta begin to kind of stretch your time and work it in order to effectively have enough of it to properly do these things to any conceivable extent. I mean, I haven't yet been able to pull it all off perfectly, but for the most part it's been working out pretty well. And I can't tell you how many times I have actually gone ahead and just ran out of time entirely, but for the most part you really gotta work milk every fucking passing second when you're doing this. That is to say, when you're playing the role of a network director, which I should also like to say, okay, one thing is that in order to effectively be qualified to serve the role as I am doing here and accomplishing what ultimately I'm intending to accomplish via the initiative, the remainder of anybody who's watching, anybody involved, most particularly Soul Mechanics now is my baby. That's what I want to focus on. But ultimately, overall, in order to kind of play the game as I am. I mean, just personally speaking, I can't say this is objective for everybody, but I mean, it took me like altogether what it has to amount to around about 15 years or so now of like isolation and devoted training, and I mean training really specifically in being capable of spotting values as they present, spotting associations, you know, the networking of the values in play, how everything plays into each other, how it's going to play out, you know, in playing into each other going onward in the future. You know, I mean, there's various intricacies to this. Now, just other network directors that are working with me in the initiative, or in the network rather, don't necessarily have to be possessing of these qualifications in order to play that role. They are, for the most part, the only actual like necessity qualification that's required for playing the role in that, you know, I guess you could say in that, to that measure, to that effect, is to be, you know, honorable or respectful. It's kind of nice to be both, but also, I suppose I might say, like, I might like to use the term loyal, but trusting might fit better in the sense that, I mean, for example, if somebody has presented themselves as a director and gone about directing things, and you've witnessed, you know, people following these directions as, you know, benefiting repeatedly, if these directions as they play out are in fact playing out as this person intends for them to, and it is in fact good for everybody, at least from what you can tell, it's turning out well. And you develop a measure of trust, what allows for you to go ahead and back this person up in the cases where they might require for you to, in order to effectively maneuver these scenarios or negotiate these happenings. That's really what I'm considering as being the prerequisites for taking up that mantle, is simply, you know, having the trust to back up the other directors in play at any given point, most especially the operators. Trusting each other, having loyalty to each other, and that goes both ways, too. I mean, and not simply just backing up anything that I might ask of you or she or anybody else, you know, at the round table, as it were, might ask you to, but also, you know, being able to stop on a dime at any given point in time and openly tell any one of us when you think we are not doing the right thing, or, you know, if you feel as though we're making a mistake or something is off, being actually honorable, respectful, as in honest and open and trusting and loyal in the sense that you can be a true friend. True friends are going to tell you when you're fucking stupid, right? They're not going to let you continue to do something they see as being wrong. They're at the very least going to inform you. And that's something I want to ask everybody, you know, whatever you happen to think about anything that you know, the coming and goings here, talk to me. I'm always open to these discussions, and they need to be had, because I mean, I've done a lot with the team that I have, but I mean, I can't. I'm not like able to do much more than I have alone, and I really need input, guidance. You know, I need guidance. Just because I'm directing people doesn't mean I know, you know, precisely where the fuck I'm trying to go. I have an idea, but this path is meant to be walked by us all collectively. So, I guess you could say kind of like what we've determined as being sort of an enemy in play. There are various factors I want to address as regards that, but this story about this person I know of that I just talked to Sweetie Cheeks about, we have to put some thought into how we're going to say that or tell that story about before we do. But it has, from my perspective of being essentially in the ether and seeing these connections, these networkings of values, it's become clear to me that this enemy, as it were, what effectively does actually amount to religion, specifically Christianity's concept of a devil character, you know, of an actual, like, evil. It is that. It is real, but at the same time, it exists in the sense that it is actually not real. It is, I mean, ultimately, A, it's manufactured, that's for certain. B, it's not even, like, deliberately manufactured. It's like a glitch. I explained it as being a glitch. It's like a kind of a mistake in our very programming that it's so simple and subtle that it's invisible. You don't even see it happening because, I mean, ultimately it's kind of not happening. It's your psyche doing precisely what it's supposed to do. But, I mean, it's difficult to assess what might drive somebody to, you know, doing something that is...
Well, there's two possible things there, is that just to basically simplify, because you're so very good at that, some super fake nice, you know, person at work tried to, like, get you in trouble, basically. So the two possible reasons, obviously, are A, she was trying to get brownie points for herself and is just a bitch, or was actually trying to, like, interfere with your job specifically for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, obviously, that's going to be a potentiality.
Oh, shit.
But what I actually think, what I'm seeing at least here, what it very much appears to be, is neither. It's just simply like feeding an addiction in some ways. It's simply like
just a
compulsion. It's not. There's no deliberate intent. Yes, and
but there is, though, behind it somewhere. There is a bit of deliberation. There
well,
is.
I'm actually wondering
purpose.
now. I'm wondering if we didn't just crack the whole thing right there. I mean, perhaps that is in fact the actual problem, or the actual area of concern. That is to say, the actual enemy in play may very well be non-consciousness, indeliberate reaction, lacking of deliberate intent.
I guess that could be a problem. It could just be a kind of a general bad habit that people kind of get into, behaving that way in a day-to-day basis. But if you would ask, you know, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist, like, the same thing, they'd probably say that you somewhere buried deep within this person's psyche is an actual deliberate reason for that behavior.
That's the general consensus that we tend to have as regards the psychiatric arena, but I'm thinking that more so that would be the answer provided because the psychiatric experts are not actually as far along on this route. Like, there are certain things they are, in fact, not really allowed to take into consideration.
Well, it depends on who it is. I just mean...
Yeah, I mean, depending on the person, they might say one thing or another, but the expert opinion officially of any psychiatric professional, they are actually... There's certain things that they are not really... It's not necessarily like they're not told you cannot do this, but
it's
for the most part...
It's just not generally accepted in their field. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an adult person that has a lifetime or half of a lifetime of experiences and memories is not likely not going to just do something for absolutely no reason. There's a reason somewhere. Even if it's a stupid reason.
Okay.
I'm not saying good reason.
No, just to play with it and to keep it, to keep it in consideration for the most part. Let's go ahead and say, okay, firstly, as regards, any given